Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever the fuck you're watching this episode. It's another episode of the Blitz, brought to you by Backyard Sports. Got the clan, the gang. Listen, yeah, said it. Listen, there's, it can't be unsaid at this point. It's the internet, so we're gonna fucking do it live. So, the Super Bowl happened, and kept the Swifties at bay. There's no rioting in the streets, comparable to when Philly actually won a Super Bowl. So, I guess we could jump into the first question is this. Let's just get straight to it. Is Jackson Mahomes going to die a painful death?
One can only hope. He's such a terrible person, man.
So crazy.
He's such a terrible person.
I don't want him to die.
You know what? Can we just redirect all of the hate towards Taylor Swift back to Jackson Mahomes where it belongs?
I wish.
Holy
He
shit.
deserves it, man. He's such
Sick the Swifties on that fucking guy.
Right. Jesus.
I mean, listen, Brittany didn't want him in the party. Fucking A.
She made the effort that you make when you really, really, really hope that somebody else will tell them, no, you're not coming in.
Oh, right. It's like
Immediately was like, I don't know, I went to talk to someone else.
Dude, it's like the fucking effort you make when your fucking kid shits his diaper and you got 3 nannies. Like, there was nothing. I don't care.
You smell that? You smell that?
That said, I don't want him to die.
No, but still.
That's not what I asked. I just asked if he's going to.
No, I didn't say you said that. Gary said that.
If he dies, hopefully it's painful, right? Can we agree on that?
No, I don't want that. I'm not. I think I just want him to go not be camera. I want him to go away, not Robert De Niro go away, but go away.
Just go away.
I just maybe want him to Yellowstone go away. So maybe he comes back at a later time.
No.
Oh, started off fresh here on the Blitz. So, boys, how are we doing? Mode, let's go to you. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's crazy, Fucking ran a little court tonight. Feel great. Yeah. Feel great.
0 points attempted in the paint.
32. Oh, no, there was buckets.
Oh, there were buckets.
I don't take it easy on them. No way.
Yeah, a little late.
I just meant for the record, I meant on the defensive side of the ball, like they weren't scoring.
Oh yeah, no, they did.
Well,
there were buckets both.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, it was an attempt. Okay,
I was there. Springs don't work the same way,
Yeah.
They used to be well lubricated. Now we're a little like fucking Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz. It is what it is, man. Age.
Yep.
Can relate.
Time is undefeated.
Yeah, exactly. How are you?
Good, man. I'm good. I actually got out on the soccer field with the kids today, so we were active tonight. We were active tonight on the Blitz.
Fucking A.
Yeah, that makes 2 of us.
Oh shit.
Yeah, maybe I'll get a chance to throw around a disc golf tomorrow.
There you go.
No, it's Valentine's Day. Just kidding. Thursday.
Tomorrow is the 14th.
Yeah, you will not be doing that tomorrow.
I have dinner reservations tomorrow, so just kidding.
Just kidding.
Sorry, babe.
Yeah, if not, we won't see you next week. This is Gary and I.
You'll be the one broadcasting from the ER.
Yeah, for sure, dude. For sure.
If
I'll go live from the ambulance.
I fucked up.
Uma Thurman and fucking Kill Bill 2. Fucking trying to punch out the casket. Fucking
So
running out of air here.
So I think we can all say that defensively, this was an incredible battle. This was kind of fun to watch. Secondary was looking good at key moments. Pressure on quarterbacks looked good, keeping lots of 3-and-outs. I mean, this was a very low-scoring game. I think a lot of people probably expected this to be at least a higher scoring game for Pat, right? And that wasn't the case. So right off the bat, I feel like the defenses they came out swinging, and San Francisco started kind of falling apart in the defensive side there in the end. But yeah, let's just I guess we could start by going around the table there and just kind of acknowledging or talking about the defense.
So how we start? We started with like a punt, a turnover, a punt, a field goal, a turnover. Like,
Yep.
you know, it was funny because we were reciting it while we're sitting here, like, holy fuck, you know, this is, and then you get like 10-3, that mark, and it's like, man, you know, this felt a little bit like 2 weeks ago for Kansas City. Not in the same fashion necessarily, but just that low scoring game. You're going to keep Mahomes around. I think we're to the point where, and this is probably why Raul and I went with KC, right? Where you start to get in a situation where the team is good enough to keep a really good quarterback around, and it doesn't fucking matter how good the other team is. We said it. I know I've said it multiple times. I don't know if you guys agreed with me. I thought San Fran had the best roster. I thought the Ravens were probably the second best roster. And now, you know, we got a team with a shitty fucking half-ass defense or offense, a good defense, a very good defense, and Patrick Mahomes, and they dictate everything.
And Pacheco, I mean, even Pacheco, like, not to switch over to full-time offense talk here, but like Pacheco really didn't have as much of an impact as they needed him to really get that comfortable lead. And Deebo Samuel, the same thing for San Fran. I mean, he was dealing with something in the quad the entire game. And so, yeah, definitely tough sledding there. CMC was the only guy that was able to ever gain traction, and he worked for it, you know. But on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like Kansas City secondary did a really good job of shutting down a lot of things. And man, just that special teams. We can get to that, I guess, here in a little bit. But Gary, thoughts on defense?
Yeah, I mean, defensively, like San Francisco looked like the better team in the first half. They were running the ball right down Kansas City's throat, which, as we talked about a week ago, like that was the reason I picked San Francisco. I didn't think Kyle was going to go away from the run. And we saw like CMC had 90 total yards in the first half, and he ended up with like 90 plus rushing yards. But they did Kansas City's defense a lot of favors in the second half, right? When you start throwing the ball against a defense with the top rated secondary in the NFL, especially against the deep ball, and you start dropping back 5-7 step drops and you're trying to throw it, Kansas City was able to play that because that's what their strength is. And I'm not going to go too much into offense because I know we're going to get there. So going back to the defense, San Francisco's defense just wore down in the second half. They played really well in the first half. Right at the end of the first half, before the punt issue that we're going to talk about in a minute with special teams, I literally wrote it in the chat and said, this feels like a 13-10 Kansas City win, right? Because like it was 10-6 at that moment. And it just felt like if San Francisco's not going to go score more points, you're going to kind of let Mahomes hang around. And lo and behold, you make a mistake and he goes and scores a touchdown. Suddenly it's 13-10 midway through the third quarter because you've kind of let him back in the game. You had your chance, right, to really put the screws to him and let your defense play the way that you have. Your strength on defense is the ability to rush the passer. And we saw it working in the first half. What ended up happening in the second half is you let Kansas City stick with their game plan. They were able to kind of dink and dunk and just wear you down. And San Francisco's defense didn't play a full 48 minutes or 60 minutes, 48 like basketball, right? But 60 minutes. And Kansas City's defense never gave up. They never stopped. They never stopped doing what they were doing. The only people in the building, I think, that were surprised on those third down pressures that Spags was bringing all night, and I know I said this in the chat as well, is like, it's like Kyle and Brock were the only two people surprised by the fact that Spags was bringing pressure on third down, because you had third and manageable several times. And Kansas City's defense really fucking put the screws to you because you basically let them by playing into their hand, dropping back, and they came and they rushed the pass. They did what they did. Chris Jones saved a touchdown, right, to Brandon Ayuk. And then I believe it was Karlaftis that saved the touchdown to Juwan Jennings at the end that in overtime that would have – then we would have seen it play out whether or not Kansas City was going to go for two. So really Kansas City's defense did what we talked about was going to be their strength, and San Francisco really played right into it. But defensively, San Francisco was a tale of two halves. It was kind of a tale of like two segments of the game. It was 2.5 quarters, and then they fell apart.
Gary, both of us, me and Andy, both yawned separately during that monologue. Good God.
It wasn't because of you, kid. I've been up a long time.
That was so rude.
Raul's was. He's admitting it. Fucking dick.
Yeah, no, it was just fucking rude. I'm sorry. I just don't understand. I never understood the reasoning why they wanted to put themselves in positions to challenge that secondary in the deep ball. So to your point, it never really made sense.
I think
Shanahan, but we're talking about Shanahan, who is like arguably, I mean, I guess we can use this to kind of transition into the offensive talk, but like Shanahan is a playmaker, and his generational's worth of designs, right? And pioneering the game. I just have trouble understanding. I felt like there was more pressure to make it a quarterback versus quarterback kind of scenario as far as putting pressure on Brock to make these critical plays against a defense that is deserving to be in the Super Bowl. It just doesn't make sense.
I think we see it a lot of weeks, though, right? So, you might have Derrick Henry, or you have a Josh Jacobs or a Christian McCaffrey or whatever, right? And you run the ball really well normally. However, and especially in the playoffs, I think this can be said, you have a game plan that works a certain way this week, right now. And it's like coming into the next week, and again, especially in a critical moment, you might say, hey, maybe we can do this. We throw them the fuck off. I feel like football so often is chess, right? You have a lot less games in these other pro sports. You're trying to capitalize off of the minimal appearances weekly basis for the NFL for 18 weeks with a bye in there. I think like Shanahan got in a situation where the pass looked really good against the Lions. And now we come in and maybe we can throw the Chiefs off a little bit. We have the weapons. We have George Kittle. We have Brandon Ayuk. We have Deebo Samuel. We have Jennings, who was awesome that game. I normally wouldn't call him out. And we have Christian McCaffrey, who also was good in the past. And Brock Purdy, when he gets in trouble, he's able to run the ball. The Chiefs defense kind of smothered that a little bit late in the game. And it was opening couple of series where you're like, maybe this works again. And it just doesn't. I think they have to, get behind their big guys a little bit and try to run them. I mean, 22 rushing attempts with Christian McCaffrey isn't a slouch or anything, but yeah.
And we got 49ers offensive linemen going at each other on Twitter.
Yeah. Well,
which is, that's conduct unbecoming.
I believe that 49ers line is a little worse than they believe they are. Right. You have Trent, right? So that makes the whole thing kind of work.
You can ignore one side of the ball.
You wouldn't have looked at the Vikings receiving core last year and said they suck because they had Jefferson.
Right.
But outside of him, they weren't very good. So, it's just one of those things where I think sometimes, like, I hear 49ers fans talk about their offensive line. I'm like, you guys aren't that good. Like, you have maybe the best tackle in the league, but you're not that good.
Yeah.
So I think grain of salt with that a little bit.
Senior, that's a great point. Just that postseason image that tends to change the strategy. And I wonder how much of that is attributed to the extra time you get to review film to kind of maybe get in your head more? I mean, that's got to be some type of effect, right? That's got to affect some type of critical play where you're looking at the data more than just looking at the situation.
I know Rich Gannon, Tim Brown and company swear that that's the reason that they lost the Super Bowl to the Buccaneers, because Callahan had a plan all the way up until about 3 days before the game, and then he changed the entire game plan. If they'd have only had 1 week of preparation, they think they would have won that Super Bowl. So yeah, sometimes you can get in your own head. Sometimes it's what we talk about, right? Sometimes you feel like you're the smartest guy in the room. I'm going to be honest. I think, and Kyle will never admit this. And if he did, he'd be an idiot for admitting that he's this crazy as a fucking head coach. But I think he wanted Brock Purdy to win the MVP of this game. And I think at halftime, he made that decision because they were two offenses. In the first half, they were riding Christian McCaffrey, which is what they should have done the entire game. In the second half, they came out and ran 7 dropbacks on their first 8 offensive plays. And they were stifled. And then the punt happened and everything changed. And then it became a little bit of a back and forth. But I just think there's a lot of ego with Kyle Shanahan, and you have to take the good with the bad when it comes to that. Much like his father, who was very, very confident in himself when it came to the running game and making any running back great, Kyle Shanahan is that with quarterbacks, and he's done that, right? Like Jimmy G has thrived, and he's had guys like CJ Beathard was really good under fucking Kyle Shanahan. Anybody remember CJ Beathard or know where he is now? Like he's that guy with quarterbacks, and I do think that given truth serum, give him an ayahuasca treatment, I think he would admit, at least in some form or fashion, that he wanted Brock Purdy to win the MVP and silence the Mr. Irrelevant talk or whatever, because there's no explanation for what he did. He lived through 28-3. He lived through 23-13 against the Chiefs the last time they played, and they were up 10 at one point 10, but they were up 7 coming out of the half. I don't know how you justify completely changing your offense against a defense whose strengths are that sort of passing attack. On the other side, you got to give credit to Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. They stayed the course. I think Andy mentioned this, and I think Raul, you agreed that it's kind of the reason why you guys in the end kind of went with Kansas City. The defense kept them in it. They stayed the course. Find me one person who's not a 49ers fan, and I'll bet you a good majority of 49ers fans would also admit that they thought this. When Pat Mahomes got the ball with a chance to tie it at the end, they were going to tie it. When Pat Mahomes got a chance in overtime, got the ball with a chance to win in overtime, they were going to win. That's just kind of who he's become in those moments late in the game, and that's why in my opinion, Kyle Shanahan lost this game with his approach to the second half. It was really, really a bit of a confounding approach. 7 dropbacks in the first 8 plays on offense coming out of the half that tells me you didn't learn your lesson from 28-3.
Well, I mean, Gary, you've seen me, and I think the rosters are similar with San Fran and Detroit. I think Detroit's a younger San Fran. Mm-hmm. Different coaches. I bitched about it all season. Coming out, going away from the run for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Shanahan. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's one of these things where, and they're not the only 2 teams that do it.
No, Baltimore did it all game.
Right, and Baltimore did it. I was basing it off of what I bitched about 1,000 times to you guys, and you're like fucking, trying to console me in the corner because I'm like, why the fuck did we run the ball 20 times with success at 5 yards a clip or 6 yards a clip, and then we just abandon it to go to these throws? That's two really good fucking teams this year, right? In the NFC, the 2 best. I mean, by most metrics, and they did that. There was a Green Bay game where I bitched that they stopped going to fucking Aaron Jones. There's, the Baltimore game. There's a lot of this, like it's outsmarting yourself. You get on the fucking sideline and you say, "Hey, It's like something you would do in fucking a video game, right? You're like, we ran it 30 times in the first half with a lot of success. Now watch this. Because they're coming after the run now.
Yeah.
Let's switch it before they can fucking adjust. Just go. Just do what you're good at.
Yeah.
I mean,
you had the lead.
Fuck. You do what you're, especially with the lead, do what you're fucking good at.
Yep.
And I think some of these coaches get way too fucking smart. It's like getting cute. I say it every week.
Yep.
You got cute. Like, quit getting cute. Just fucking go out there. If it's working, who cares if they figured it out? They probably did figure it out. They went in the locker room and they talked about how, hey,
we got to stop the run.
This team is doing this thing every time, and we need to stop it. Bro, if I was successful, like they figured that out after like 9 snaps, right?
Yeah,
anyway,
it didn't take halftime.
So when you go in halftime, it's just words, right? I mean, maybe there's a couple adjustments you make, but like at the same time, you don't think those coaches are. This is the mecca of football.
Right.
You have fucking 16 coaches on your roster. And what's supposed to be the best of the best is your head coach. If they didn't figure that fucking shit out in the second quarter,
right.
I don't think they figured it out at halftime.
They have tablets on the sideline for a reason.
Right. 19 guys up in the fucking booth.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little to this because it has been flooding Facebook. There's the missed holdings on Nick Bosa got held like 50 times in this game. Armstead got held a bunch of times, and I was even talking about it. But the big thing for me was I thought it went both ways quite a bit. And my dad and I actually watched this game together, and I think he can vouch for the fact that like I bitched about the officiating much less than I usually do because I thought they were just letting them play.
Yeah,
I wasn't pointing a lot out. There were some things like here's this, here's that. The one thing I'm really curious about, and I've got this set to DVR so that I can go back to watch it. I've seen something circulating where Kansas City got an extra down, and I didn't catch it live. But there was one moment in this game where I told my dad that I thought it was 4th down, and it was 3rd down. In the last 2 minutes of the 4th quarter, I literally said, I thought it was 4th down. And the video that I've seen is from about that time frame. So I need to go back and watch it and try to figure out, like, is that the time when I said it? I'd really be interested to see, because we've seen this before where they mishandle like the down marker and stuff. Yeah, see, I mentioned it at one point, and I can't say with confidence. That's why I got to go back and rewatch it, mainly for my own. I'm not going to come back on Facebook and be like, see, I told you. But I've seen that circulating.
Yes,
that maybe.
Yeah, no, I think. Listen, I think if you find that, it's got to come
for sure.
For sure, dude. Like that has.
Although I'm positive somebody else would have found it by now. And it would have been nuts.
There's video like evidence of it where it says second down on the second down. I can probably find it again.
I would figure it would be like front page.
And they don't break away from what I was waiting for was them to break away from the video. And it's just straight continuity. You can see the running clock going,
find that.
And it goes from second down to 1st down. So I've got to check. I can't say, but if that happened, that's a huge issue. That's a major issue, especially there's a minute 40 left in the game too at that time. And I remember saying that about that time of the game, I thought it was 4th down, and they ended up converting on 3rd down, or they converted on either 3rd or 4th down at that point. And I remember that happening. But other than that, I thought the officiating was pretty fair back and forth. I thought that there were opportunities where I saw some egregious stuff that they probably could have thrown the flag. But I also, like I said, I thought it was kind of both ways where they were kind of letting them play. So I don't have any complaints coming out of this game. I know that it's easy as the losing team because Washington is perpetually a loser. It's easy as the losing team to like hold on to something and say like, Nick Bosa got held and blah, blah, blah. So,
yeah, no, I was pretty all right with the officiating the last 2 weeks. I thought the conference games were pretty well handled too, comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
And then I thought the Super Bowl game was pretty good. Listen, what I will say to San Fran fans, because I get it. If you have an elite level pass rusher, they're getting help like every day.
All the time.
Right.
Talk to Micah Parsons, talk to Aiden Hutchinson, who gets it a lot.
Yeah. I complained about it Gary probably got sick of hearing from me after like week 5.
No,
and I stopped after like week 10 because
we all know at that point.
Right. We get to the point with and I did it with Aiden Hutchinson. We get to the point where like it just happens so often. Yeah. And it's almost a compliment to the player because they have to hold you.
They can't stop you otherwise.
Right. It's like that the tackle quick jump back. That shit. Like they're just doing it. And so
they have to get off.
Holding happens on every play.
Yeah.
Bosa better get held. If Bosa doesn't listen, in the way Chase played in that game, if you're not holding one of those two, it's a sack every fucking time.
Yeah.
And then Armstead had like 3 anyway. So I mean,
Armstead was a menace. I don't know who the fucking asshole wearing the Chase Young costume was, but he had a good game.
It was pretty good. Listen,
I knew you were going to be bitter. I knew you were going to be fucking bitter about the Chase Young performance.
Well, even Gary's not going to dispute how talented he is.
He's super talented. He sucked until that game for San Francisco too.
But he picks and chooses, man. He picks and chooses.
He had a good game. He's probably going to get paid this offseason, and a GM's going to lose his job because of it.
Yeah.
You only watch him play.
Market value is going up.
That's all you have to do is watch him play by play. Because I saw some really good plays against Detroit.
Yeah.
And I saw some really bad plays again. There was a couple plays where
a lot of loafing.
Just walking, literally stood straight up. If I'm an offensive player, I fucking drill him up under his shoulder pads for walking around the field like that. But I digress there. But he's the ultimate has more talent than anybody on the field, but doesn't care.
Can't give half a fuck.
Yeah,
which is crazy. It's crazy to think too, and I know I told you guys this. I can't remember if I said it on the conference championship show or the Super Bowl preview, but Chase Young was the hardest working dude and a leader in the locker room as a rookie. And then between his rookie and his sophomore year, he got endorsements and was on TV and yada, yada. And he just got full of himself, maybe, whatever it was. He's not been the same guy since his rookie year.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
I wanted him in Detroit. Glad it didn't happen.
That's probably a good thing.
He'd have been out of there quicker. Mentally.
I want to hear from you two as the two that picked Kansas City to win. Watching that game, are you comfortable put yourself in the shoes of a Chiefs fan, right? Are you comfortable next year knowing that you're probably losing Chris Jones, you're probably losing a little bit of your secondary? Are you comfortable that offense is going to be able to make it work next year?
Yeah, fuck it. It's going to always work. It just works.
Listen, you invested $500 million into the future of your company.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's as ownership, right? As a fan, you can be a little, because it's not your money, you can be a little more.
I'm trying to be as objective as possible. That's what he's saying. For sure. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. No, yeah, it's listen, it just always works.
He makes the team better. He's one of the few that does. And
it always works until it doesn't at this point.
I think you have to depend on people. I think you have to depend on Andy Reid to fucking make that happen. So they've got to figure it out. But I really do feel like Pat's the quarterback that can make your fucking he can make Amendola. He can make those guys.
Rice looked pretty good towards the end of the season, so that's that. Kelsey's going to be back, even though he's not what he is. He is what he is. I just feel like they're going to figure it out, even if it looks like they don't, because by week 7, we are all out. By week 14, we were all completely the fuck
way out.
And then by week 3 of the playoffs, we were like, well, can't bet against them anymore.
Right.
Yep. Right. I think this is the first season where I can confidently say I'll never fucking count out Pat again.
I'm done. Like I did it with the Bills. I did it with the Ravens. I did it before that.
I think
Gary probably wanted to do it.
What's that?
I said you probably wanted to do it. Everybody thought about it, right? We talked about it last week. You said the same shit. Like,
yeah.
How do you go against this?
I think the biggest thing is what Mahomes has right now. What Mahomes and Andy Reid and that Kansas City team has right now is what the AFC East felt with the New England Patriots for fucking 20 years. It's the boogeyman effect, man. You go into these games and you know you've got to either be perfect or you've got to find a way to make them make mistakes. And like Mahomes made a mistake. He made the most atrocious throw I think I've ever seen him make for that interception. I couldn't tell who he was throwing to because it was between two wide receivers and it basically hit the defender in stride. But San Francisco didn't capitalize on it. And you see the panic. It's panic from guys like Ray McCloud. And I don't want to get too far out on special teams, but it's panic from guys like him. Like, I've got to make a play. It's the biggest stage. It's the biggest team. It's panic from Christian McCaffrey fighting for the extra yard, not protecting the ball. It's panic from Kyle Shanahan going into halftime and doing what probably you said, Mode, probably doing that and just saying, I'm going to get ahead of them because I don't want them to start stifling our offense. I don't know what it is. You can't stop. And it's the overtime thing, right? How the fuck do you not know the goddamn rules to overtime? You're so worried about Kansas City.
If you believe what they said, the whole fucking team was in the dark.
Right.
They've never heard of that before.
There's not a single person as a coaching staff,
in their organization.
How is that not just like a 5-minute presentation every fucking week? You panic, right? You panic. The moment's too big, whatever you want to call it. And that's what Kansas City, they become the boogeyman. And I know I've said like Philly's not the boogeyman. Kansas City right now, they're the goddamn boogeyman.
You know who never panicked? Tom Brady. Never panicked.
Right.
Never panicked.
Ever.
If the Chiefs start off 0-5 next year, like, so the fuck what?
That song's going to come out. The next mega hit.
Smash hit for sure.
Fucking Taylor Swift. I mean, it is what it is. I just
my dad was busting my wife's chops about Taylor Swift was going to come down and perform with Usher because Lacey was watching the first half because she didn't want to miss the halftime performance.
Yeah.
My dad's like, Taylor Swift's going to come down and perform with him.
Fucking Kanye would have been out there like.
Listen, we need to talk about that halftime show. That was like from a nostalgia perspective. I thought it was
great. All smoke.
Yo,
bro, it was Lil Jon for me.
I loved it.
Oh, dude. I was Luda
on the roller skates, man.
Luda better get the fuck out here. I'm shutting it off, dude. I was so upset for a minute.
Can we say a prayer for Jermaine Dupri though?
Oh, listen, did you see the people that thought he was CeeLo Green?
I thought he was CeeLo Green. I didn't know he was.
Green too. And I was trying to make sense in my head what the fuck CeeLo Green was doing out there.
I didn't know who it was. And then you said Jermaine Dupri's looking rough in that. And I I was like, oh, that's who it is.
He took the mic down, and I was like, that's fucking Jermaine Dupri. What the fuck is he doing?
I only ever seen two motherfuckers pull off the schoolboy Angus Young tuxedo. And that's fucking LeBron James. He did it. And he pulled it off. It's questionable, but he pulled it off. And Russell Westbrook. That's it.
In Angus. So
you like the Angus Young reference? That was nice, right?
And Angus Young pulled it off. I mean, bro, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It didn't even fit the fucking whole theme of the performance.
Bro, I see some guys sometimes, like, I see people, God bless their heart, and I'm like, they're dressed that way because it's comfortable.
Legend.
Regular pants and shit.
Legend.
Too much. This motherfucker don't have an excuse. This is Super Bowl and you're fucking rich. Make it work. Taylor will tailor anything.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're shaped weird and you got to shop at fucking Target, I get it. You're Jermaine Dupri. I don't understand this.
You got money.
Bro, he looked like he was about to get on a fucking bus with his little backpack for the first day of like fucking
back to school.
Stop looking at me, swine.
I'm not a fool.
Conditioner is better.
Stop looking at me, swine.
No excuse for it, Jermaine Dupri. You're better than that, I think.
Dude, that was a hard L.
I feel bad for Swizz having to watch that on live TV too.
Listen.
Yeah.
Finding out on national television.
Bro, if it were anybody other than Usher, Who gives a fuck?
Right.
Usher?
Usher will steal your girl.
Yeah, right. When I was a teenager, Usher will steal the girl, your mom, your fucking grandma,
Yep.
the whole fucking family.
Oh, dude.
No, nobody's safe.
Yeah.
Your brother,
Generations of
your
them.
brother that likes painting. I mean, fuck. It's Usher.
Yeah, nobody's safe.
He used to be like the best looking dude on planet Earth, and then he fucking was.
Yeah.
And listen,
And she was smiling.
She was.
Man's still stacked.
Yeah, still got it.
You know,
still got it.
He's got that old man.
out.
He's got that old man strength.
He was struggling out the gate, and then Usher jumped in. She recovered.
Speaking of struggling out the gate, dude, Alicia was rough. Yeah.
Well, Gary, you said I didn't have Alicia Keys butchering lines. She got it back after
She did recover, but that was a tough part.
It's like a rusty pipe.
Yeah, it was like I was singing out there. Jesus.
The crazy shit is I had to, like, I was Googling it because I was like, maybe she doesn't perform much anymore, but she does. Yeah. And I just saw a performance. It was like a couple months ago, and it was fine.
Yeah.
Different song.
Yeah. She missed sound check.
Yeah, right. She did miss sound check. I don't know, but handled it like a pro.
Honestly, it could have been something as simple as she just didn't fucking match pitch before the song started, or her in-ear monitors weren't on. I mean, it could be.
That could have gone off the rails like Carl Lewis, but she recovered.
You know, and then what else we had? We had fucking Reba.
It could have gone off the rails like
kid.
Reba with the national anthem.
Reba
killed it.
Vegas
Brought a man
to
tears. Brought a man to tears.
I'll never hate on Reba.
Yeah,
Reba. You know, she got the
Can't do it.
Fucking A.
She's a survivor.
Oh, we're going sitcom, huh? Yeah, I must survive. Yeah, I mean, fuck. Yeah, listen, it was good. Killed it. I thought all in all, it was a pretty good musical night. I've thought that the last couple of years, though, right?
Listen, when the only complaint I heard from anybody was Usher isn't the same dancer he was when he was 25, it was a pretty good show. It was a pretty good show.
Thought he was pretty good.
You're just complaining to complain.
Hey, listen, dude.
About Usher dancing at 45 fucking years
old.
old.
I'm sorry that a dude's moves are what's bothering you about the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
You fucking suspect ass.
Exactly. You're bitching just a bitch.
You may not be gay, but you've seen one up close, baby. I'm telling you.
You know, it was like, I'm not racist, but I didn't like the rap concert, the Rihanna, or the Usher the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Why don't they put Garth Brooks out there?
Yeah.
Like shit like that. I mean,
they just need to give the people what they want, and that's everybody. I mean, people of all ages, of all colors and characters.
I'll be honest, man.
We want Creed.
I didn't love
Creed.
I wasn't like a huge fan of Rihanna's last year, but I didn't think it was terrible.
It was fine.
The year before was Smoke.
Oh,
with M and Dre and Snoop and all.
You may never reach that level.
This year, I thought this year was really good.
50 was upside down, bro.
Yeah, fat as shit.
Yeah,
bad as shit, bro.
Right.
He looked saturated.
Didn't give a fuck.
You see his pizza video recently?
A what?
Oh man, you reminded me of like. So Fitty's fat, but like he got fat because like he's fucking filthy rich now because he's been doing TV and shit, right? So he's got a video with his buddies, and it's like this fucking like artisan pizza, and he pulls it off, and like it looks super good. And he goes to hand it to his buddy, and his buddy's like, "I can't afford that fucking pizza." He's like, "Fuck that, boy, eat. We rich."
Listen,
it's true.
Then go with your money. Figure it out. Ultimate businessman.
Yeah.
Who would have?
He's had people fucking like take advantage of him and still recovered, and he's filthy fucking rich.
He's just good at business, man.
He's
like
very good at business.
You know, you get a guy like that, and you're like, fuck, he'll blow his money in 5 years. But it's that exactly. Listen, it's Jay-Z, same shit like that. I'm telling you right now, these like poor dudes who fucking dealt drugs.
They're not a
gotta figure it out, man. Like that's business, you know. I mean, I'm not saying it's a fucking honest business, neither is Wall Street, but like that's business trades. You fucking get out there and 50 Cent, dude, smartest fucking dude.
Hustlers hustle.
Curtis knows how to protect his chicken.
And then Jay-Z, obviously, fuck.
God.
Businessman, you know.
T Swizzy. Businessman.
Businessman, you know.
Yep.
Anyway.
So how about Kelsey's fucking
blow up?
No, I don't think it's a blow up. I think it was awesome.
I thought it was warranted. Okay?
I love it.
This is the fucking Super Bowl.
I liked it
His
a lot.
His future wife is watching.
So I saw somebody say he has an alter ego because him and Jason's podcast, like he's more well spoken than he seems, right?
Yeah.
And then on that, like he goes right back to like the Gronk frat boy shit. But I would say the same thing about Gronk though too. Like Gronk on TV is better than Gronk in an interview after a game.
Oh yeah.
So like I don't know if it's an alter ego so much as it's just like a.
It's a mentality.
They've got chambers. They separate.
Well, everybody does, right? I mean, listen.
Yeah, but shit's more primitive on a football field.
Sure, but if you wanted to talk to me like after a good night's rest versus after like a fucking workout or something, or like a football, like the response is going to be different.
Right. That's true. That's true. But either way, I mean, I think at the time that this incident happened, he had a yard.
He did.
I think he had a yard of offense.
He did 2 catches for a yard or something like that.
Right.
I mean, if I'm Travis Kelce, I want to be in the game there too. And it doesn't help
on a run play. You're a dog shit blocker.
It doesn't help. I think he just wants to be in on a goal line play.
Look, if that's week 6, he's benched for the rest of the game and week 7. You can't do that. You can't do that. Like it's entertaining.
Do you think he's benched?
Yes.
I don't think
you can't do that. You can't do that.
I think he can because he's Travis.
I was gonna say I think a numbnuts is benched. I don't think Travis Kelce.
Yeah, right. If he's in Njoku, he's fine. He's benched for 3 weeks. It's Travis Kelce. I don't think you bench him.
If it's fucking Kadarius Toney.
I just think, Gary, I understand what you're saying because you're saying that the bar should be the same for everyone, I think. But like
No. I'm not saying that.
That fucker's all bent.
I'm saying that's a leader in your locker room, that's a captain on your team. Doing that to the coach, you're setting an absolutely terrible precedent.
I wish I could be on board with that as like a coach, but I couldn't.
So where's the line then? Because you at least acknowledge
physical contact. Standard. He ran into him. He about knocked his ass over. Andy Reid's a 70-year-old dude about got fucking knocked on his ass. That's
okay. So you're telling me that if Pat Mahomes did that, you'd say the same thing?
Yes.
No, dude.
That's the line. Man. Physical contact is the line.
He's sticking to it. That's fine.
That's the line.
I mean, if that's the way you feel,
I think there's discretion. I think there's just discretion. You know, like if Andy Reid fucking brushes this off and chooses to, then, you know, I trust Andy Reid. Now, look, if it's some fucking no-name, like if this should happen to Kellen Moore, for example, then 100% I'm with you. You have to set the tone early. But this is Andy Reid. You know what I mean?
If they lose that game, we're having a different conversation.
I'm not.
Yeah, that's fair.
We are because Andy Reid is after the game.
Maybe. I don't know. Man,
I'm more on board with the repercussions. I'm
just not disagreeing with you, but I honestly didn't think it was a big deal. I really didn't.
I didn't.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was a bigger deal than I thought it was. I didn't care.
I didn't think about the physical contact at first, but honestly, I think because Coach Reid is poised in that moment, I'm poised. You know what I'm saying?
He didn't seem bothered by it though. Like
it was a nuisance to him. It wasn't something that he
Like he didn't seem like, oh my God, he almost just put me on my ass though. So like if it was Mike McDaniel and he got tossed 35 yards, maybe it's different there. Andy Reid's kind of a large dude. Maybe he just didn't, I don't know. Didn't even really seem to fucking throw him off what he was doing.
That's fair.
Shout out to Andy Reid.
I mean, one of the greats for sure.
He ain't missed a stride there.
Living up to his punt, passing, kick footage.
So before we get into the greats talk and everything that comes out of Pat Mahomes having 3 rings, I think I want to get to the most important part of our episode. For those of you guys who've tuned in for the first time, thank you for watching. We're a veteran-owned podcast, and every episode we dedicate to a fallen service member. In our Folds of Honor sponsor segment, we call our Salute to Service. This episode is going to be dedicated to Air Force Master Sergeant Evander E. Andrews, who passed away October 10th, 2001, serving during Operation Enduring Freedom. He was 36 years old from Solon, Maine, and he was assigned to 366th Civil Engineering Squad, Mountain Home Air Force Base, Idaho. He was killed in a heavy equipment accident in Qatar. Air Force Master Sergeant Evander E. Andrews. We have the watch.
You saying his name reminds me of kind of like a quick aside before we try to bring the energy back up to get into something else. But when a name is so synonymous with like a person, you said Evander and my brain immediately was like Holyfield. It's crazy when sometimes like a name is just so synonymous with a single person. And when you hear one, it's like, yeah, okay. I get why people glom onto that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
My ear hurts.
Yeah. Get a little earache every time I hear that name, right?
I tend to break my back. Spinal.
I think I'll just fade into Bolivia.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't mean to neglect special teams because I'm sure the social media world isn't. But before we get into the greats talk, I think it's time to potentially provide some light on what the fuck we saw happen in the special teams breakdown here. We're talking about 2 very critical moments, one being a missed field goal attempt and the other being a drop punt. So both of which happening on the San Francisco side of the ball, and really either one of those and both collectively ultimately cost them in the game. So lots of things to really digest here. I can't imagine how that special teams feel right now. Gary?
Yeah, it's goofy too, because like I don't know that we've ever seen this much of like a dichotomy for special teams, right? Because Jake Moody sets the record for Super Bowl field goal distance in the first half as a rookie. And then Butker comes back and breaks it. But on top of that, like both punters were showing their ass, man. Tommy Townsend and Wisnowski were punting the shit out of the ball. I mentioned that now his name's eluding me, but old boy from San Francisco that was on punt coverage. Like, has anybody ever won the MVP on like punt coverage? Because he's on his way, because he downed that one at the 1. He had that big tackle on a big punt as well. So like the first half was like a display from special teams. It was so good. Both sides were making really, really good plays. But then we end up with like 2 critical errors by San Francisco on special teams that in totality, those 2 plays really changed the course of this game more than anything. But it's the punt, the muffed punt that changed, really, in my opinion, changed the entire game. Because it's 10-6 at that point. We mentioned San Francisco's defense was playing really, really well for about 2.5 quarters. But you get the momentum swing. And it's like, it's a difference of like 2 to 3 inches from hitting his foot and not hitting his foot. And potentially if it misses his foot, it just bounces away from him and goes down the field. But it hits his foot. And in a heads-up moment, Ray McLeod realizes that hit my guy. But in an also bonehead decision in that moment, tries to pick it up. In that moment, and I know special teams coaches like coach this. I know defensive coaches coach this a lot. And I know that like offensive line coaches coach this a lot. just fall on it, because nothing really good comes from that moment when there's a muffed punt trying to pick it up and run down the field. You're not breaking a punt. It's a 1 in a million thing. And I know the Deshaun Jackson play in the closing moments against the New York Giants will come into people's minds and like, yeah, but Deshaun Jackson did it. Guess who Ray McCloud is not? Okay, let's just leave it at that. But that moment, that swung the entire momentum of the game. And from that moment on, it felt like this was Kansas City's game to win. Now, San Francisco battled back. They scored a touchdown. Then they get an extra point blocked. I'll be honest with you. And my dad said it in the chat here, like, that wasn't going to be good if it wasn't blocked. It was only blocked because he hooked it. And that was going to miss. It was going to go wide left if it hadn't been blocked. So what I will say is that I don't hang much on Moody for that, though. I don't hang much on the special teams unit for that moment, because that didn't change the game in the way that the punt did, because Kansas City on 4th and 1 at the 5-yard line is probably going for it instead of kicking a game-tying field goal, because they'd have been down 4 instead of 3. They're probably going for it. And if they get it and score a touchdown, that's much worse for you. Being up 4 or being down 4, that's in the calculus for Kansas City, whereas being down 3 in that moment that they were at the 5-yard line, the field goal is in play. So I don't think the extra point had nearly as much impact as the punt. And obviously we can say, like, they scored a touchdown after the punt, but that changes momentum, whereas an extra point block, I just don't think it has as much impact. And the math is the only thing that changes with an extra point is like the math.
The math being that you now have to get in the end zone and score 7 to get ahead.
Right, but you're going to go on 4th down, and 4th down is now
right.
You've got an extra play.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
No, you're right. I mean, and if you make a stop on 4th down, right, that's huge. That's huge. It probably ends the game if they had made a stop on that 4th down. But I
think the momentum has to be like that. That is a huge factor in it, 100%. So I totally see your side there, Andy. Are you of the same belief? Are you of the same belief that, or are you of the belief that the extra point was the bigger nail in the coffin?
No, I think the punt. I agree with Gary. The punt's the bigger nail in the coffin. However, I don't want to downplay the extra point, because
I agree.
Sure,
that makes it a flush score where we're here and now we're beatable by this. So, or we can tie the game based on this. Huge. I mean, both, when in the grand scheme of things, very big plays. But yeah, the ghost.
I think all of this.
The ghost comes back and bites
Kyle Williams.
Yeah, you can't.
I think all of this math just points back to the fact that you can't count out Pat.
No, you can't. Well,
because even if they get the extra point, and you got to and now Pat's got to put up 7. Down. You're giving Pat another attempt in the end zone, and or a first down, and he'll get there.
So there's some merit to like special teams, and a lot of fans I see don't love special teams as a whole. A lot of it's the impact of the kickers deciding games. Some of it's they don't even return kickoffs anymore. They rarely field punts, which I think is a misconception. I think there's a lot of fielded punts in the NFL this year. I've seen it a lot of times. I don't know what the percentage is, the ratio. I should probably have looked that up. I wasn't thinking about it. But
I think also understanding like the nature of the moment, right? That'll dictate whether or not they're going to punt it in field, and they're going to bait the run, right?
Sure.
I think a lot of people just don't understand how football can be chess, right? There is a lot of strategy that goes into it, and even things like punts. Like the reason why Pat McAfee is revered as an amazing punter is his accuracy inside of these fucking key points, inside of the 5-yard line, inside of the 10 in critical moments. Like that special teams play, Devin Hester, another great in the special teams world. Exactly. Yeah. Like that's why these people have the importance that they have in critical moments. And that's, offside kicks, prime example.
Well, a lot of it is chess, but I think a lot of it is like war too at the same time. So like those punts,
for sure.
that punt in the moment was a lot of chaos because it hits a foot. Nobody was the guy pushing him back wasn't expecting it to hit the receiving team's foot. The guy in San Fran wasn't expecting it to hit his foot. Nobody planned for that, right? That's not even really a calculated thing when you really break it down. If I'm covering 10 things in a huddle, it hitting somebody's foot who's being pushed back doesn't really probably crack that. So it's chaotic. It can be, and it happens fast. And I think we don't get we don't give as fans a lot of credit to punts and punt returns. It happens fast. It's not an easy thing. That's probably one of the harder things in football is being a punt return guy.
Man, trying to catch those punts.
You're catching that fucking lofting ball.
130 feet
on it.
In the air, man.
If you're open field, there's wind. You're trying to determine whether or not you want to fair catch it or you want to just try to return.
You got to feel bodies around
you. Fucking unrealistic. Some of the most unrealistic athletes in pro sports are on fucking special teams. Some of those guys, their only job, I run
down the field as fast as possible and hit somebody hard.
That's it.
It's also one of the only positions outside of the quarterback position where you have discretion. You have discretion to do things like, I'm going to run this motherfucker. And Devin Hester was known for taking risks. Yeah. He was known for waiting until a defender was 10 fucking yards away from him and saying, fuck this fair catch. I'm doing it.
If you're on the goes team, and you might be a great athlete. Also, you might be a guy who's like, why am I not starting on defense or why am I not starting on offense? So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bust somebody's fucking dick.
And you have to put yourself aside in those moments as the guy catching the ball purely. The defenders, you need to put on a clinic on how to fucking set blocks, right? And then same thing on the kicking team. Those guys need to go and fucking kill the man with the ball. That is the entire point of that.
They're a little unstable.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. But from the receiver's standpoint, whoever's receiving that kick, you have to put your fucking ego aside. Sure. Could it be a highlight reel that's played for the end till the end of time? 100%. But in that moment, you jump on the fucking ball.
Well, that's a good point though, too. Because I'm talking about about it being chaotic, but also you have to be pretty fucking smart, right? If you're the guy who gets to determine whether or not I try to return this, I try to fair catch it.
It takes discretion.
Even if you got to catch it, you have to still fucking catch the ball.
You got to catch it.
So that, there's
situational awareness and ability.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. I've always been impressed with returners. They're just. It takes brains, and there's people around them that are saying, "Hey, you're going to take this. You're going to hit a knee," and there's also moments where it's like it's your call, bro, and then it's on them, and then it's fucking game time based off of.
You might get a game where you don't ever return the ball, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And that builds up over time too.
You got to be ready.
Listen, I was that way after week 18 this year when the Lions kick returner got hurt, Khalif Raymond, and I was pissed about it. People were like, it's just a return guy. And I'm like, you don't get it.
He's important.
And I may have been in those other shoes sometimes, because who the fuck knows other teams' kick returners, right? Yeah. Unless they're really special, you don't know who that guy is. Right. So, somebody on the outside looking in, you have no real idea what the value is. And some of these guys are just fucking explosive and they do a lot.
Aside from when they're actual threats, the only time I ever pay attention to a kick returner is when it's somebody who's also starting on the offense.
Right.
Or when they
pop
up. Pretty typical.
Right, of course. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah.
And then we threaten their families' lives on Twitter.
Yeah. Jesus.
I mean, dude, you know who deserves some fucking threats? Trevathan.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck him. I'll never forget.
Elon Musk.
Call me Pepperidge Farm, dog. I'll never forget.
Pepperidge Farm. Hey, one last thing I want to get your guys' thoughts on before we jump into quarterback talk is the overtime decision. And I know that it's gotten a lot of pub because, and we talked about it a moment ago, San Francisco wasn't prepared. KC was. We talked about the fourth down being in play for Patrick Mahomes when you consider if you got that extra point, now fourth down might be in play. Overtime is the same thing now. And that was always like the college rule. If you went first, you could kind of set the tone for what you were going to be able to score. But you always really put your defense out there because you know what you need to score and you get an extra down. And I'm really surprised that Shanahan wasn't prepared for that. What do you guys like? Why do you guys think that was? Like, is it just arrogance? Is it just because, like, for a coach not to know the rules? He was interviewed after the game and still said, like, we wanted the ball to score and not give Patrick Mahomes another chance. Like, the game doesn't end if you score a touchdown. That rule changed 2 years ago. That's not a yesterday thing. That's a 2 years ago change. I'm just curious your guys' thoughts. One on the overtime rules. Do you like it? But why was Kyle so unprepared?
So I like the rules. I think that
I love it.
Each team getting a chance to score is definitely the way to go. But I think the strategy there is that you can't go first. I mean, I'm really into rap battles, and the general rule of thumb is whenever they start flipping for who goes first, it's never you.
You're always on defense.
Exactly. You won the ball in the second half. And that's kind of the mentality. So I think it's tough to delineate how much of that is like in the moment kind of overwhelmed. You're going into overtime against, this is all for the chip. This is, it's all on the line, which you would expect a Shanahan to be poised and just absolutely ready for it. I don't understand the move. I don't see a scenario where even as a novice football understanding guy as I am, it doesn't make sense strategy wise why they would ever want to take the ball first. It just doesn't make sense to me. It seems like that human error in and of itself was devastating. I don't give a shit what momentum you have. I don't care if the defense just gave up 28 unanswered points. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you just came back from a 28-3 deficit to tie the game. Like, there's no reason. Let them fuck up first, and then you finish the job.
I also like the overtime rule. I think it's the way it should be. Yeah, like, here's the thing with Shanahan. Either he didn't fully comprehend the rule, which is bad, or he does.
There's no way he didn't.
Or he doesn't.
There's no way he didn't.
But that's worse, isn't it? Because then it becomes like ignorant versus irresponsible. And I almost feel like irresponsible is worse in that position.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can be ignorant to the fact and not completely understand it. Also, don't fucking think for a second, Raul, I didn't catch you throw out fucking did Gary Freeze words and shit a minute ago. You did it. You
what?
No?
What did I say?
Gary caught it. No?
I didn't.
You said fucking delineate, like, and I was all over that shit. Because
you said say delineate.
You would have busted his balls. Delineate. You said it.
You did say it.
And you would have been all over his shit about it. So I was holding it, and then I decided, yeah, we're gonna get it. But yes, if you're Shanahan and
I'm still in my work clothes, dog. I'm sorry.
I saw that. I was almost gonna let you slide, but I was like,
I feel like a lot of my job is TED Talks.
You would have called Gary a nerd. So
busted.
Yeah. Yeah.
For old Shans, though, it's one or the other. Either you were ignorant or you're irresponsible. And
yeah,
I think irresponsible is worse because it's that ego, right? That's boils down to being fucking. I get wanting to go down and set.
There's just no way you convince me that Shanahan wasn't aware of the rule,
right?
Or the strategy for it. There's no.
I think he wasn't. I think he wasn't. He said it after the game. He was interviewed. He said we wanted to score a touchdown and not give Pat another chance. The team literally has come out and said that they had no clue.
Yeah,
Kyle Juszczyk said, I didn't know the rule had changed.
So I'm cool, like, if you want to go set the tone, but don't say I want to go set the tone because I'm not going to give them a chance.
That means you don't know the rule.
Right. That's terrible.
It is.
But that's also Kyle Shanahan's fucking fault.
Yes, it's 100%.
Oh, of course.
The Chiefs came out and said, we drilled it every week. In every meeting, we had a conversation. It's a 5-minute conversation, right? I can break it down for you in 10 seconds. rules changed. Everybody gets a possession. We don't want the ball first. We're going on defense because it puts fourth down and 2-point conversion in play for us. If we win the toss, we defer. We're starting a whole new game.
It was like
when did this rule come out?
2 years ago.
2 years, yeah. The Bills.
Okay, then I'm fucking done talking about it, bro. Like, there's no excuse for it.
There's no excuse, but I legitimately think he didn't know still, and I don't know how that works.
There's no way, dude. There's no way they didn't know. There's no way the fucking 118 people on that staff outside of the 55-man fucking roster, you're telling me not one of them fucking thought to mention or discuss that rule. That's no way.
That is crazy.
It's crazy, man.
There's no way.
It's crazy.
I could be on board with Shanahan didn't realize, but like somebody's getting fired.
Yes.
You can't even tell me because
he's getting fired.
Because there's not an NFL team on earth that doesn't practice some type of overtime play situation.
Right. They don't have like a Jonah Hill.
And so in order to do that, they have to know the fucking rules.
They need their money ball guy.
Yeah, they can just fucking be like, hey.
Maybe.
In order to do that, though, they need to know the fucking rules. There's no way that Kyle Shanahan didn't know. I think it was fucking arrogant. I think it was arrogant.
Maybe.
I have to agree with that. Like, I think irresponsible, arrogant is the way to go. And
there's no way Kyle's that fucking out of the loop.
Right. Because, again, I understand that
we're holding him in the same, like,
tone.
I really do.
I get it.
I hold Kyle Shanahan in the same fucking level. Like Kyle Shanahan is going to go down in history at the same level as Andy Reid as far as coaching ability and who he is. I mean, no, dude, I think so. I think that Kyle Shanahan, like, he's still younger in his career in relation to Reid, but he's already done so much.
Andy lost a lot of NFC Championship games early in his career.
That's what I'm saying. This dude is going to
Super Bowls, but
Kyle Shanahan is going to fucking age like wine, 100%.
Maybe.
I think so. But in this
case,
one of the brightest coaches in the league. It's tough to do, man.
Yeah,
I think winning in the NFL consistently is hard. That's why so few teams do it.
Right. That's why we've had 4 dynasties in the history of the game.
Right.
Yeah. Who are those dynasties?
That's why the AFC has had 6 teams in the fucking championship.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs are now the 5th, right? We've had 4 before the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You guys agree it's a dynasty also? I think we were going to discuss
it has to be, right?
3 and 4, 3 and 5, 3 and 4, like that's a dynasty.
So
Steelers in the 70s, Niners in the 80s, Cowboys in the early 90s, Patriots. Those were the 4, and now the Chiefs.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
somebody tried to make the argument that the Joe Gibbs Redskins were, and I'm glad. So it was Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon tried to say like they won 3 Super Bowls in like 9 years. So
that's close.
It's close.
Well, it's very close.
It's still a
one
great
thing
run.
I will say is like Joe Gibbs is crazy underrated in the history of the game because he has 3 with 3 different starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He's the only coach to do that.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I just think like if you're to the point where you've been to the AFC title game 5 years in a row, 4 of those years you won. In 3 of those 4 years you've been to the Super Bowl, right? Because I think the only team to interrupt that is Cincy, right? 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl against the Rams.
Yeah, Cincy beat them. Yep.
So every other year they've won that game, right? They beat the Bills. They beat Baltimore this year. They beat the Titans one year. I believe it was the Titans. Something like that. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to pull it up. But yeah, it's pretty wild. Done a really good job. Chiefs are definitely a dynasty if you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like anywhere from 60 to 75% win percentage of Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's wild.
Exactly. That's definitely worthy.
I'd say it was unheard of if we didn't watch the Patriots the last 15 years.
2 decades. Fuck. 100%. Well, while we're on the subject of the Patriots, I think it's time we go ahead and dig into the greats. So we pitched some ideas, some numbers of where we rank our people. And we kind of extended out to 8, but initially I think it was a top 5 conversation. And it gets really blurry at probably starting at 5, right? I think I'm holding on to a little nostalgia and keeping Johnny Unitas in my top 5. But outside of that, we're keeping the same guys in the same top 5. Once it gets past 5, it gets blurry. And we're all kind of keeping the same people involved in that number. But how much is this impacted by Pat Mahomes winning another Super Bowl? So that's what we're going to digest in the last portion of this show tonight. And so, Gary, I'll hand the floor to you.
Yeah, I said last week, 3 is a magic number, right? In the coaching world and in the quarterback world, Pat's now 1 of 5, right? There are 5 quarterbacks in the history of the game that have won 3 Super Bowls. It's Aikman, it's Bradshaw, it's Brady, it's Mahomes, and the third one is going to elude me, and I'm going to be pissed. Montana, that's right. Yeah, and I'm pissed that it eluded me. So he's 1 of 5, right?
You missed the easiest one.
I know. Jesus Christ. He was the GOAT before the GOAT, right? But
yeah, I actually knew that one, and that was
I know.
I wouldn't have known that otherwise.
Yeah.
That's how easy that was.
Yeah, exactly. But so now he's 1 of 5, right? So right off the bat, you're talking Super Bowl championships. He's top 5. I mentioned last week that I still had Marino ahead of him. I have Rodgers. I said at 6. I told you guys Rodgers would have been my 6, and then Mahomes right at 7. 1 spot ahead of where Andy had Mahomes, and I also concluded our discussion by saying like a third might move him to 4, right? So I tried to kind of parse this. Am I gonna bump Marino or am I gonna bump Montana in my top 5? Basically, is what it boils down to, because I've got TB12, I've got Peyton, I've got Elway, and then I had Marino at 4, I had Montana at 5. And longevity is still a concern for me in terms of bumping. And I know that there's going to be some people that are like, how the hell do you have Elway over, Montana? How do you have Elway over a guy that's got 3 Super Bowls, a guy that's got 4 Super Bowls? But I'm putting Elway still at 3, and I'm going to move Mahomes to 4. And I'm going to shuffle my 4 and 5 a little bit, unfortunately, for Dan Marino. So my new 5, now that Mahomes has got his 3rd title, is TB12 at 1. I've got Peyton at 2, and I'm going to reinforce what I said last week when we were talking about it. Peyton changed the position, okay? The quarterback position went from kind of a guy who runs the plays, is kind of the captain of the offense, to a guy who's a field general. And he set that tone. Checking at the line of scrimmage is something that really started with Peyton Manning. So he changed the game. Elway is still, in my eyes, the most maybe complete quarterback that I've seen play, with his ability to move the ball with both his arm and his feet, his toughness, his grit. He carried some bad Denver Bronco teams to a few Super Bowls in the 80s as well. He had an opportunity to be a dynasty with a pretty bad roster in the 80s, and then he got his 2 Super Bowls at the end when they finally put a good roster around him. So that's where I'm going to stay with Elway at 3. I know that Mahomes' longevity is going to get him over Elway, but right now at this very moment, I'm leaving Mahomes behind him because of some of the counting statistics. That's what separates Elway from Mahomes for me right now. I know by the end of his career, he's probably going to end up number 2. If he gets to 8, he's going to be number 1, obviously. If he gets to 7, then we're going to start splitting hairs about whatever. But he's got a long way to go still to get there. He's at 4. I know he's probably going to get to 3, likely to get to 2. But at this very moment, leaving him at 4. And unfortunately, I'm going to bump Dan Marino out to number 6 with Rodgers behind him. But I'm leaving Joe Cool at number 5. 4 Super Bowl titles is a big fucking deal.
Well, I don't know. A couple weird things just happened because I think where do I start? I think I'll start with the list. I had Brady, Manning, Montana, Marino, Rodgers. I think I had Mahomes at 8.
Yeah. You had Favre.
Elway and Favre in there somewhere, right? 6 and 7.
Yep. Elway, Favre, 6, 7, and then you have Mahomes 8. Yep.
So I also need to do what you did. I think first and foremost, I need to switch my 3 and my 4. I want to put Marino at 3 and Montana at 4. I'm doing the opposite thing, which is crazy. Swear to God, I had it before the show. The 4 Super Bowls are great. I think that even Joe Montana would tell you Dan Marino's the best quarterback he's ever seen. Listen, football is a team sport in a lot of ways. Dan Marino threw for 5,000 yards, I think his rookie year, like 1983 or something, before it was cool.
48 tugs.
Yeah. Dan Fouts had the record before that at like 47 or 48. But like, there was a point 5 years in Dan Marino's career where he had like 5 or 6 top 10 passing yard years in as many seasons played. So just wild stuff, way ahead of his time. If you think, Clayton or Duper were top 50 receivers, I mean, we can talk about that. I just never had a run game, never really had a defense, never had an offensive line. I just did so many things. And Bill Cowher said this, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. Dan Marino was the first guy to play the quarterback position where snapped the ball and he stood there and he intimidated the defense from that spot. And, big dude, like 6'5". I think Joe Montana obviously was very successful. I don't think that you could sell many people on the fact that if they switched roles, the outcome would be very much different. So, well, at least for San Fran, I think that they probably, I don't think Miami has the same success. Joe Montana, great. I mean, excellent quarterback, but not as physically gifted, not as talented. So there's that. That was the one. The other one I wanted to point out, son of Gary said, is I think if we talk 6 Super Bowls with Mahomes, I think we start talking about it then. I don't think it has to be 7 or 8. I think
the counting stats are going to be where we can have that conversation.
Yeah, I think if we get to 6, we might start talking about that. So with that said, I think I said it last week anyways. If Mahomes won this game, the Chiefs won this game, I thought not only would he be in my top 5, but I'm pretty sure I said I'd put him at 3. And 3 is where I'm going to put him right now. I'm going to move Marino down to 4, Montana to 5. Rodgers is out, unfortunately, on the bubble for me. I still have Brady 1, Manning 2. Couple things I looked at that are interesting. If we said Mahomes plays 14 years, right, which isn't the average for these above average level quarterbacks, 17 seems to be about the average, 17 seasons. Mahomes has played 7. If he plays 14, he's 148-44 on going at this rate, 56,000 yards, 438 touchdowns, 126 picks. He wins 6 Super Bowls, 6 MVPs in the Super Bowl, 4 MVPs in the regular season, 6-time All-Pro. That's 14 seasons.
Yeah.
Most of these guys we have in our top 5 played 16 or 17. I mean, Rodgers is still going.
Brady played like 22, I think it was final tally.
Crazy. I think Manning played 18, I believe. Montana played actually probably the least of these other guys.
We're talking about almost a 1-2 win ratio.
It's nuts.
Yeah, they've won a shit.
He's 74-22 right now with a 66.5 completion rating, 28,000 yards, 219 touchdowns, 63 interceptions, 103 passer rating, 3 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 MVPs, 3 All-Pros. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he's higher than Brady in win percentage. Brady's last season in Tampa skews that a little. So, listen, I'm going to do it. Andy, you convinced me. And I had to look this stat up again. Montana's out of my top 5. Marino's back in my top 5. Joe Montana played with 12 offensive Pro Bowlers in his career. He also played with 11 Hall of Fame teammates throughout his career on both sides of the ball, not just offense. But yeah, I'm
Jerry Rice.
I'm doing it. Yeah, Andy had Jerry Rice.
Jerry
Rice, who I made the argument last week about Mahomes with Hill and being great with other quarterbacks. Jerry Rice was awesome with Steve Young as well. Steve Young to Jerry Rice was a better combination than Montana to Rice, which is hard to believe, but it is true. Steve Young retired as the highest rated quarterback in NFL history after taking over for Joe Montana. So I'm flipping Marino and Montana. I'm taking Montana out of my top 5. You did it for me, Andy.
He's the guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I guess that just leaves my my top 5, which is completely just fucked, because I think I was running with a lot of the childhood lessons of the greats. My dad talked a lot about Johnny U. He hated the 49ers, but always respected Joe Montana. So mine's going to swap a little bit. I mean, obviously, the GOAT remains the same. Peyton's 2. I really question the idea of putting Pat at 3, but I felt like it's not that it's too soon. It's more of maybe it is too soon. I guess I don't know, but I wasn't comfortable putting him at 3 yet. I think that Marino is probably the deserved 3, only because, again, like you said, it's something where everybody understood that regardless of what his Super Bowl count looks like, he was the greatest quarterback vision. And I think a lot of that probably, like in my top 3, is purely focused around just your understanding of the game. It has nothing to do with athleticism, but your ability to produce, right? And I think that Pat Mahomes is probably the guy in my top 5 that is actually broken that, because Aaron Rodgers is sitting in my 4 spot. And a lot of that has to do with not necessarily his athleticism, but his understanding of the game, his QB vision, his ability to read defenses, his ability to anticipate what a defense is going to do and who's going to be open and when, and then physically thread that needle. And then that puts Pat at 5, and 5 purely because of tenure. If he gets up, I mean, if we see him get another chip if he gets a 3-peat, it's a fucking wrap. He's probably at 2 for me.
I mean, a 3-peat is something that's never been done either, right? So like that's a feather in your cap that nobody else has.
If he 3-peats, he's 2, and it's not, and it's really no more debating for me. I'll be honest. Like, the only reason he's not 2 is because he's not cashing in 7 or 6. So, and to be honest with you, I think he can best Tom Brady at 5.
Brady has 7.
Huh?
Brady has 7.
Right. But what I'm saying is that I would consider.
Okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Right. I would consider. It wouldn't take 6 Super Bowls for me to say Pat Mahomes is the GOAT. I think I could probably say it at 5. Honestly, just the athleticism edge that comes with that is he truly is the blend of that dual threat quarterback that every football fanatic or QB fanatic has ever wanted to see. We can't name anyone else in that top 7 that's there.
Elway to a certain extent.
He's not
the same. Not the same.
He's not in my top 7.
He's not. He's not in my top 7 anymore either.
Okay, so top 5.
He's 8 now, remember? For me.
Either way, he's not in anybody's top 5, right?
He's my number 3.
He's Gary's, yeah.
Okay. All right. So Elway had some, but in comparison to Pat.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Right.
No. I mean, I had Elway at 7, but now that Mahomes jumped up, he moves back. So it kills me that I have Green Bay Packer quarterbacks at 6 and 5.
I think a lot of that too with Elway too is speaking on those years where he had zero help and he had no choice but to fucking scramble and make something happen. It's probably what sharpened that tool.
The helicopter play, I think, is the thing that demonstrates what I appreciate about Elway and what I think separates him from a lot of other quarterbacks is just toughness, his ability to create, and his ability to do it both ways. And He played in 5 Super Bowls. He carried a bad Broncos team to 3 in the 80s. He engineered some of the most mesmerizing come from behind wins, and he got the Stanford band on the field.
I mean, listen, if you want to talk toughness, let's talk Jim McMahon.
Yeah, that fucking guy. Using his head as a weapon and then suing the NFL.
Fucking walks outside, forgets what year it is.
Yeah.
Fucking guy.
Yeah.
So top fives definitely change. Big impact, regardless, because of Pat Mahomes. Some of that because of my own uncertainty. But everything else in the top fives completely shooketh with the 3rd additional ring here to Pat Mahomes' repertoire. So lots of changes here, man. And so I think, Mode, you said your number's 6. Gary, what's your number? Is it 6 Super Bowls as well before you consider him into that GOAT comparison to Tom Brady?
I think it's probably 6. Probably.
Could be 5 though. I don't necessarily.
I will say this: what could sway me to 5 would be if 2 come without Andy Reid.
Okay, I'm gonna backtrack now. I'm gonna waffle. I think 5 definitely gets the talk.
If there's a
conversation,
but listen, but I'm gonna say this too. I think 4 with enough statistics, like if he were to break Brady's records and have 4, I think we could also entertain the conversation. But 5,
I think a lot of people sleep on Brady's stats. I think a lot of people.
I'm not sleeping on the stats. He has like 89,000 passing yards.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if Mahomes,
I know a lot of people outside of this conversation sleep on Brady's stats, though. They're like, he never really put up a lot of numbers. Like Tom Brady has what's he at now? It's like 3.5 to 1 in terms of TD to INT, 90,000 fucking yards,
like 89,000 yards, fucking like 6,084 touchdowns. No, it's a lie. I didn't really.
649. To 212 picks.
649. 5.4. I mean, like the percentage, the TD percentage, 5.4.
Yeah.
Like
crazy.
Come on. I mean,
crazy.
That's what I'm saying. If Mahomes passes those stats, say it's 95,000 yards in only 4 Super Bowls. Maybe we're still talking that.
Super Bowls aren't going to matter to me at that point. If that TD to interception rate stays the same, then Super Bowls don't mean shit to me. Because you can't keep Marino in the same conversation if we're going to be only talking about Super Bowls.
The problem with Marino is I don't think Marino can ever be in the top 2. No matter what, because he didn't win.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's got his cap. I think what's nice with Mahomes is here's the scenarios we're talking about. Statistically, depending on what he does, maybe he can win 4. I was saying, I think what you were saying, I originally said 6 and then I backtracked to 5. I think 5, then he's probably automatically in the conversation as long as he has 80,000 passing yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, which at this point, I don't remember what I said he was on track for. 14 seasons.
He's already at 28,000. So,
listen,
60,000 yards in 14 seasons.
If he plays 14 seasons, he's on track for 56 and some change. So playing, I said 17 was the average. If he plays 17, we probably figure he has what?
15,000 more.
Yeah. So 70.
70.
So 70, that doesn't really even get him there. So he's got to do a lot. That doesn't even break.
Yeah.
Fuck, that might not break.
But man, 22 seasons is a lot of fucking seasons.
Well, the passing leaders, so yeah. If he got to 70, if he got to 70, he'd be number 5.
Yeah.
He's still behind Favre and Peyton, Drew, and Tom, but fuck. Phillip Rivers had 63,000 passing yards.
23 seasons. I'm sorry. I keep selling him short a year.
Yeah. Listen, and that's going to be part of it. And that's why LeBron James records are going to be really hard to beat. Fucking greatness with longevity, when you combine the two things, like that's –
Brady had his highest passing yard season in season 22.
Again, I'm telling you guys, in people who don't like one or the other don't want to listen to it, but like the parallels between Tom Brady and LeBron James are like they're all over the place. There are so many things with those two players to just go
to be
back
that good for that long.
Right. Why are you good? Like most guys fizzle out around, like in the NBA, especially like 35 is like your cap.
Yeah.
Even today. I mean, there's some guys, Karl Malone stuck around forever. John Stockton stuck around forever. But like very different skill sets. And the same thing can be said about like Tom Brady. Like we've seen some quarterbacks, right, hang out forever. They're not out there throwing for 5,000 fucking yards.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
As a 42-year-old throwing for 5,000 yards.
And I get it. It's a passing league, and
it is. We're going to have six figures from one of these guys.
Well, it would have been Dan if he played in this era. Right?
Dan would have had six figures in a season.
Fucking 75 touchdowns.
Dude, Dan was nuts.
Well, and the longer these seasons get, the more likely you are to hit that number.
Too, man. You're already playing an extra game.
Yeah, I think that, like, I was talking to a buddy of mine about like the measurement of how many 1,000-yard rushing games you have, how that's kind of inflated because of the additional games, right? Like I was talking about Mike Evans in relation to his, 10 or 11 consecutive 1,000-yard plus rushing years. And some of that has an asterisk on it because of the increased schedule, right? And so I feel like with the increased schedule, you have to also increase the bar in which we measure them, So we shouldn't be looking at 1,000-yard seasons. We should be looking at 1,200-yard seasons or whatever it is, whatever it needs to be. So
that bar, man, quarterbacks, a 3,000-yard season is not a big deal anymore, right? Like Jameis Winston threw for 3,000 yards when he had 30 picks and 30 touchdowns. Like,
right.
And I think he threw for
like
4,
the receiver position, for example, is still measured in 1,000-yard increments, but the number in which is considered elite has increased. Right?
Yeah, you're talking 1,200 to 1,300 yards that's the rare air now, not 1,000 yards anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of. I just think it's funny that they still bring it up on TV, like, oh, this is Mike Evans, and not to throw shade on Mike Evans.
Milestones that just sticks out, but you're absolutely right. It's cheapened. It's not what he used to be.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, Mike Evans, as an example, I did the homework on him, and in the years that we've had the 18-game seasons, he reached 1,000 yards before, week 17, week 18. Yeah. So, if you do the math, you see that it's still good numbers.
Yeah, he didn't.
My guy will catch 15 fucking touchdowns, though.
It's not fake news,
right?
Like that. That's the thing. I'm almost to a point where, like, would I rather have a guy with 1,082 yards and he catches 12 touchdowns, or I get a guy that gets 1,400 yards but he has 6 touchdowns?
Yeah, right.
Like what's
100%?
The touchdowns have to be the value there, right? I mean, when you're talking 400 yards or
that's
300
the
yards.
Julio Jones conundrum,
right? Julio Jones. What's the most he ever scored in his career? Like 6?
Well said.
Something like that. Like he leads the league in fucking tackles at the 1.
I mean, I'll tell you this right now as a Lions fan, Calvin Johnson wasn't a touchdown machine.
No,
not as much as people would think he is at 6'5".
Yeah,
I mean, his record-breaking season, he had less than 10.
Yeah,
right. But his clutch plays to get in the fucking red zone.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But like,
no, it's a unique. It's a unique delineation.
Right. You think, especially these big guys like Jones and Johnson. I mean, those are.
He did have 5 in his record-breaking season. Like that's
5.
Exactly 5. That's crazy.
I thought it was 7. 5. Crazy, right?
Julio Jones' high for his career is 10.
Yeah. And I mean, I take it back on Calvin a little bit because he had 9, 8, 12, 16, 12, 12. But he also had 4 and 5 and 5 and 8. I mean, if when you think about him, like when you're speaking about a player like that, I think it's implied that he's had 10 or more touchdowns every year. Yeah. Every single year. Julio Jones, same way.
You're relying on a lot of things at the wide receiver position.
Sure. We can all agree, though, that Julio Jones underachieved in the touchdown department.
Yes. That dude must have gotten tackled at the 130 times in his career.
Maybe was he 6'3"? Like, I mean, it's weird to think a guy that size didn't catch more touchdowns.
Right.
All right, boys. Well, what else do we have in closing here? The whole season is now over. That's it.
It's a sad day. We got 7 more months for football, 6.5 before we get any football. I will say this, though. I like what the NFL is doing. So leading up to next year, we got a game in Spain. We got some, like, desirable destinations for games. I think the NFL is doing a good job of, like, picking those. I don't know that the players love that sort of travel, but I think it's really neat as a fan who doesn't have to play through jet lag and a 6-hour time difference. 8-9 hours if you're a Western, one of the Western Division teams. But it's really cool, man. Philly's kicking off the season. They're in Brazil, right? There's a game in Brazil. There's a game in Spain. Of course, we've got more in like Germany and in England, but it's pretty cool, man, to see how they're doing it. Off season, of course, is coming up, and the NFL loves packing the off season and trying to win as many months as they possibly can. I think they're down to like May being the only month that the NFL doesn't win.
Yeah. Listen, I just don't want these bitch ass games at 9:00 in the fucking morning. That's all it is.
Yeah. That's my only complaint with it, because as far as like pity for the players, I'm a very
fuck them. They make a lot of money.
Yeah, dude, exactly. I could listen. I understand you're athletes, but you're also entertainers. So fucking entertain.
I'm not one of the people either standing on like the fucking soapbox being like, these guys make too much money, because I think that what money is allocated to that thing, they make a far smaller percentage than they probably should. But like,
my beef is with the corporation, not the players.
No, they make enough money to go travel to Spain or fucking Germany or wherever. However, bro, my fantasy team does not like 9 a.m. because I will forget that motherfucking thing all the time.
That is,
I don't care if I missed the game personally. I just want to be able to
set my lineup.
We went from 2 nights to 3 to now 4 sometimes, and I got to worry about a 9:00 game on a Sunday.
You got a Black Friday game now and shit.
Yeah,
that is 100% the NFL monopolizing another time slot on Sunday.
Bro, just give me a pass on them fucking 9 a.m. games in my fantasy league, then. Jesus Christ. Like, I don't.
That game gets exclusive viewing rights, and they can sell more advertisements.
Bro, I'll wake up at fucking 8:57 and just forget.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah. These morning games are gonna be the fucking bane of some fantasy football existence. No doubt.
You're creating alcoholics. Like, some of these dudes don't need to be drinking at 8:30,
dude.
Yeah.
Some of them don't need it. Not me. I'm
do better.
Other people.
Do better, NFL. Do better. You're setting a bad precedent for the fan base here. All right. So, from all of us here at Backyard Sports, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to tune in next week. Maybe the week after. I don't know. We've got to figure out when we're actually going to start airing now that the season's over. This is kind of fucking depressing. So I may just decide to finish off this bottle of tequila and go cry in the corner.
We always have cigarettes and what the hell else were we talking about?
Whiskey, man.
Cigarettes and whiskey.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a series of after hours conversations, basically, until it's time to start talking football again.
We might see that number drop from 8 to 2. Senior, we'll see you here.
Reliable.
We appreciate the support.
Every time.
Every week.
10 out of 10 times I'm happy to see Senior. And we appreciate you tuning in, Senior. I know you're probably the only one watching live with us, so we appreciate you.
roll out the webcam.
Yeah.
Hop on the live, Senior. Hop on the live. Would love to see it. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to check in with the channel, check in on the Facebook page, the Instagram page, and we'll let you know when our next shows are coming up. We've got We cover everything from college football to baseball to even going to be covering some disc golf this season as the new season's getting ready to kick off. So we appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys next time here on Backyard Blitz, brought to you by Backyard Sports. We're out of here.